The leader of Rise Mzansi Songezo Zibi has officially unveiled the party's manifesto in Pretoria. The People's Manifesto speaks to issues including growing the economy, creating jobs and alleviating poverty. Zibi called on party delegates to be active citizens and to work towards changing the country's status quo. Since its establishment in April last year, Rise Mzansi has been on a mission to engage urban and rural communities. Now, across South Africa, we've obviously seen events taking place. So SABC News Natasha Phiri attended the launch.
Well, a very good afternoon to you, and of course to our SABC viewers. Of course, that concludes the speech there, or the address that was delivered by party leader Songezo Zibi, of course, at the People's Manifesto here in the heart of Tshwane at the Heartfelt Arena. But we're actually speaking to him right now, the man of the moment, how he feels. Is he happy with the turnout? A lot of young people came out to actually hear what you had to say, but not only them, South Africans at large. Do you think that you've convinced South Africans that Rise Mzansi is the party to vote for?
Thanks, Natasha. We continue to convince South Africans that Rise Mzansi is the kind of political movement and organization they need to build. And I think you saw today people from all over the Gauteng who decided to come and receive the manifesto that we've built together with them. And I think that's the main thing. It's the willingness to build the ideas and the policy positions together with people, whether they're members of Rise Mzansi or not.
Mr. Zibi, you talk about, just listening to your speech, economic justice. I think what stood out for me was your land policy. You talk about legal expropriation. How will you deal with this issue, if you'll just unpack for us once again, especially the issue of landlessness?
So, Natasha, there are two things that on the matter of land that are not done properly. Firstly, there is no spatial planning. I come from a village. There is no planning of where the grazing land is going to be, where people are going to settle, whether there are streets or paved roads with earth numbers and so on that can receive services. We don't do that. So it's just chaos. That's the first thing. The second thing, if you don't do that, you also don't know where to go and secure land. And one of the instruments available in South Africa in terms of our constitution is expropriation. That's why I refer to lawful expropriation. We do it when we want to build a dam, to build a road. For somebody who's from Joburg, 4 ways in 1993, William Nicol didn't go as far as it does, but land was expropriated to build that road. So it can be done for housing too.
And let's just also talk about other interventions. I mean, like I said earlier on in my introduction, Rise Mzansi is a youthful party. Most of your volunteers or supporters are very young people. I mean, I spoke to them earlier on. And you talk about a number of interventions for young people, especially around training. I mean, we live in a country where we've got high unemployment rates, especially for young people. You talk about even starting from grassroots levels, ECD trainings as well.
Yeah, you know, a lot of South Africans, especially poor black South Africans, suffer from exclusion from a very early age because they're not given the tools with which to then compete in the economy. The nutrition is poor and we need to solve that. Hunger is a problem. Early childhood development is a problem, and so on. And if you solve the first 7 years of a child's life, you really give them an opportunity to go out in life and build a life for themselves. The last thing I want to say is 90% of unemployed South Africans either just have matric or no matric at all. So we place a lot of emphasis in the manifesto in making sure that people without matric or just the matric have the skills they need to find a job.
You talk about something very interesting. There's something interesting that you said, that as politicians, you need to be realistic.
Yes.
You know, you need not to lie to people, especially throughout election season. Don't treat children, don't treat the electorate as if they're children. And you mentioned ending poverty in one generation. Do you think that this is realistic?
Well, 20 to 25 years is a decent target to go for, because I think anything you don't measure, you likely never going to achieve it. And our target is that within one generation, we must have ended poverty in South Africa. And I think if we do things right, for 5 parliamentary terms, 5, if we can't do it in 5 terms, then we don't want to do it.
So I've spoken to the national chair, I've spoken to the chief organizer of the party, very confident that you will be getting seats in legislatures and the National Assembly. Something was mentioned on stage that was very interesting, that Rise Mzansi has already started the process of getting signatures from members of the community. You know, that quota that is actually needed. You're 60% through that process. How confident are you for those seats?
Well, we've stated that reasonably we think between 5.5% and 7.5% is where we will end up. We've got really good people on our candidates list. We've got young people with degrees, master's degrees, PhDs, to my surprise. We also have very experienced people, by the way, from the NGO space, community work, former public servants, semi-retired public servants. It's a good mix.
But are these people well known to the communities?
So it's a combination of people. I mean, some of them are well known nationally, but generally, most of them are people who are known in their spaces in which they operate rather than celebrities.
I've asked this question, I'm going to ask it again because it keeps on coming up on the social medias, especially on X. You're funders of the party. Yes, you've made declarations to the IEC. Yes, we understand that people do donate to Rise Mzansi, but there must be those names that are known to us. I mean, your campaigns, some people are saying you guys are running proper campaigns. You've got billboards and posters everywhere. Who are your funders?
So, I'll say just three things quickly, Natasha. They're now asking that question because they have chest pains. They said we are a party of the suburbs. We are nowhere. Now they complain that we are in Giyani and Mkanduli and all of these places because we focused on the ground. That's the first thing. The second thing, we've used a small hall like this one, 4,000 people. We could have gone for a 15,000-seater stadium. The problem is that expenditure is equal to our entire operating budget for a year. Lastly, people must wait. The only thing I will say is when they see people pay over 100,000 to Rise Mzansi, it's people whose names they know. There is no mystery. There is no government. The IEC will release the names, but we are likely to make an announcement just before the IEC does.